It's just not there. The want is not there. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we are going to be doing my second quarter book haul. Oh, and unhaul. I forgot to mention that in the intro. All right, so before I get to anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what was the last book that you bought. Honestly, this number is definitely better than my first quarter was. I know you can't see it because I'm not holding up all these books yet. That's thumbnail Nat's problem. But it does look like my bingo board system is working for me on limiting my book buying. Let's just go ahead and jump into the haul. So first up is actually like one of the most recent books I bought. All the Hidden Paths by Foz Meadows. This is the second book, and the 𝗖cie Chronicles is the name of the series. The first book being A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, which I very much enjoyed. I am very excited to revisit the characters of Velicen and Cathari. I'm also excited to see more of Markle, and hopefully he might have a little bit of a romance going on. I'm not sure what the time period is going to be when this is taking place after the first book. We'll find out. Well, it says they're still considered newlyweds, so I guess it's still pretty early days. Then a impromptu run to half price resulted in me buying The Ride of Her Life by Jennifer Dugan. Cowboy romances have been everywhere as of late. Cowgirl? Queer? I can do that. I can try that out. I'm excited. I don't know anything apart from the fact that Jennifer Dugan has had some positive reviews about her previous sapphic works, and again, cowgirl romance. It kind of looks like it may be opposites attract. It does say irresistible enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine. Those are definitely some keywords to win my attention. Here's hoping I enjoy this whenever I get to it. My parents went on a trip to the UK and were kind enough to bring me back a few books. My mom got me The Spy Who Loved Me by Claire Mully, The Secret and Lies of One of Britain's Bravest Wartime Heroines. It looks like this is telling the story of Christine Granville, and it sounds pretty interesting, very up my alley. So my mom thought I would enjoy this one. She also grabbed me this beautiful illustrated edition of The League of Lady Poisoners, written and illustrated by Lisa Perrin. First off, I mean, the cover and sprayed edges are stunning. This does look very cool. Kind of sounds similar to like Tori Telfer's Lady Killers. I can't wait. When I filmed that Come Book Shopping With Me video, I'll put a link to that in the cards, I grabbed Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, which is a sci-fi horror story that I think it's supposed to be like the Titanic in space, and then we're following this group who are investigating the abandoned spaceship and like something terrifying is happening. Sounds kind of reminiscent to like, oh shoot, it's not Mass Effect. Dead Space. It sounds kind of similar to Dead Space, which is one of Josh's favorite horror games. So I'm kind of tempted to force him to read this with me. In that same video, I also grabbed An Orc on the Wild Side by Tom Holt. This reminded me of Legends and Lattes, but is following King Mordak, who's king of the goblins. And the particular line that won me over was, why should they, when his new healthcare program seems designed to actually extend life expectancy, and his efforts to end a perfectly reasonable war with the dwarves appear to have become an obsession. A realistic contemporary mindset, but in a fantasy story with goblins and dwarves. It sounds like it's gonna be very entertaining. Really excited to try this one out. Plus it'll work for a prompt on my Reddit fantasy bingo. I subscribe to the Evernight book box, and the latest one is Murder Road by Simone St. James. I did show this in my July TBR because I hopefully will be reading it here soon, but this is a special edition and she is gorgeous. So in this one, we are following this couple who I think are like going on their anniversary and end up meeting this woman on the side of the road, but she is like suffering from some serious injuries, and they take her to the hospital, but she ends up passing from her injuries, and the cops think that this couple is responsible for what happened. So they are forced to investigate what's actually going on. I have enjoyed a lot of Simone St. James's work in the past, and I'm actually planning to, fingers crossed, read a second book by this author in July as well. So hopefully both of those go well. I also subscribed to Book of the Month, and for the book finalist, I grabbed The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I've heard if you like Willy Wonka, you'll enjoy this because it's supposed to be like a novel version. It's like this teacher's aide who has bonded with this orphan boy. They like enter some sort of a contest to meet their favorite author. I've heard a lot of positive things about it. It's supposed to be this very feel-good contemporary story. So I am intrigued to try it out. It's not super often that I pick up contemporary books, but when I do, it tends to be happy, found family sort of books. In March, I grabbed Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, and I know this is a thriller with a podcast element. I think this girl, she and her friend went to the woods when they were younger, and when she came out alone, covered in blood, everybody believes she killed her friend, but like she has no memory of the events, and ends up eventually teaming up with a podcaster to investigate that night when she's an adult and forced to return to the town. I've heard mid and positive things so far. We'll see. I tend to enjoy books that have a podcast element in the mystery. Fingers crossed this will go well. I literally just grabbed Children of Anguish and Anarchy by 𝗖cie, which is the third book in the Children of 𝗖cie series. I went back and forth on whether I wanted to get this one, honestly, because I really loved the first book when I read it, and I kind of rode that high when I read the second book as well. I just loved seeing the characters. Once reflecting on the second book, I realized there were some issues in it. And this third book has been a long time coming. But whenever Josh and I went to a half price and I saw this beautiful edition with these stenciled edges, edge on the page too, so cool. And of course, I do love the style they've done for the maps on this series. It's just so pretty. It was really, I couldn't pass it up. I really want to love the series and hope it ends on a positive note. We'll see. But I've really enjoyed the fact that it is based in Yoruba mythology, and the twists and turns on the characters and like who you're rooting for has been very cool throughout the series. Finally got my hands on a copy of Bunny by Mona Awad because I had to buy a book at Barnes & Noble and they had a buy one get one. So I just figured, you know what? I'm finally gonna do it. I've wanted my own copy of Bunny for a while. I've been wanting to reread Awad's work and like go through and annotate it because her stuff is just so weird, but I love the like pieces of commentary she weaves throughout it and all of the little allusions. Her stuff is so top tier in the weirdest way possible, and very glad to finally have this on my shelves. The other book I got with that BOGO was One of Us Knows by 𝗖cie Cole. This was a recent thriller that is the second one by this author. I really enjoyed her prior thriller When No One Is Watching, so I was over the moon excited whenever I heard about this one. Had to go out and grab it as soon as it came out. And the cool thing with this is it is following a main character who has dissociative identity disorder. She, along with her other alters, have to figure out why they are now the caretaker at this creepy island that looks just like the Mind Palace they keep in 𝗖cie mind. Then when somebody ends up dead on the island, they have to work together to try and solve it. It was weird, I'll admit. It was a wild time. I think Cole does that very well, and the DID element of the story was definitely new and interesting. I read this one for an anticipated releases vlog, so I'll put a link to that in the cards. This was my book of the month in April, and that was Dragon Fruit by Makia Lucier. I grabbed this one because it was the pick for the Full Moon Book Club. It was cool. I liked that it was based in Polynesian folklore. Plus the tattoo magic was super awesome. This is actually also in the unhaul pile, which we'll talk about at the end of the video, but it just wasn't for me. When I decided to try out the prior series to the Winston Brothers by Penny Reed, I went on Pango and ordered Friends Without Benefits before I even started into the first book, Neanderthal Seeks Human, which did not go well for me. But I had already ordered this one, and thankfully it did go better. Following this woman who ends up running back into a sort of ex-flame from her past, but he was also kind of a childhood bully and her childhood love's best friend. So very complicated, but I had a good time with it. I think this one didn't feel so much like a product of its time, and the fact that the hero character isn't so in-your-face alpha male helped as well. There were still some frustrating aspects of the story. I did have a few red flag moments. Overall, I did enjoy this one, so I'm gonna keep it on my shelves for now, and if I do continue enjoying the series, then perhaps I will collect the rest of them. I haven't decided on that yet. Another highly anticipated book that I do have a reading vlog for was Old Flames and New Fortunes by Sarah Hogle. She just has a direct line to my funny bone, I swear. Come to describe all of her books as perfect rom-coms. She just balances between the cute romance and the ridiculous goofiness so well. This one is once again sort of a second chance romance in which we're following a woman who is fake dating her best friend, but her best friend's father is marrying her ex-boyfriend's mother. So she has been confronted by Alex, her ex, who is the only person not particularly sold on the fact that she is dating her best friend because he knows her that well. And again, the goofiness is so much fun. There's so many silly moments. There's a little bit of spice going on in this too. I just had a great time with it. And see, that's it for the haul. Actually decent numbers. Plus, honestly, pretty comparable to this unhaul stack that we're about to get into. So as I already mentioned, Dragon Fruit is in this unhaul. I just think this would work better for a younger reader. And then I did decide that I'm gonna unhaul The Boy in the Red Dress by Kristen Lambert. As much as I did enjoy this, I just don't really see it being one that I reread. I wasn't head over heels for any of the characters or like the romance at all. And the mystery is good, it's just not one that I think is so shocking and outrageous that I need to like go back to try and follow how we got there. Still recommend it, but not one I'm gonna keep on my shelves. I do my best to only really keep books that I really loved or I see myself rereading at some point. On a similar vein is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy, which overall was very much a 4-star series for me. I liked it. There were some good moments. I think the character of 𝗖cie was incredible the entire way through. She was the highlight of the series for me. And the atmosphere is also phenomenal. But I just don't really feel like this is one I will ever reread personally. So I know it's a fairly popular series. I'd rather put it out there for somebody else to find. Unfortunately, I'm also going to be getting rid of Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. This was a 5-star prediction that only turned out to be about a 3.5. I liked this. In the end, I think the author did a good job of kind of tying out everything with the Little Mermaid retelling. I never really was sold on the character of Simi. I never really was sold on the romance she had with the love interest Kola. And with how this one ended, I just don't really feel any draw to pick up the second book. So even though this is a gorgeous cover, it's not gonna stay on my shelves. I think these next few I talked about in my TBR unhaul video, so I'll put a link to that in the cards, but let's just run through. Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. This is the prequel to the prequel in her Practical Magic series. And I did like Rules of Magic. Thought I would try and continue reading the series, which is why I bought this one, kind of hoping that by owning it would force me to continue. But once I finally picked it up, I just wasn't really getting into it. It's set in the 1600s. The like toxic romance I could see that was laying out, and I imagine will tie into why Maria Owens starts the curse of like her family never falling in love. I get it. It makes sense for the time period. It makes sense for the story. It's just not something I want to read about. And so I put it down, never picked it back up. I've given up. I think I'm just gonna stop trying with the Practical Magic series. If I hear like really fantastic things about the sequel, maybe. I also made the executive decision to officially get rid of Tiny Pretty Things by Sonia Sharapotra and Danielle Clayton because this is a ballerina story, and while that was initially the reason I picked it up, but it's a contemporary. I think it might have a little bit of light mystery, and it's really just like about the drama and politics going on in this ballet school. It's not something that really has called to me since I bought it. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think this is one I can comfortably give up on and remove from my shelves. I also decided I'm probably not gonna return to Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. I DNF'd this one a while back and I really wanted to return to it. Anytime we think about it, it's just not there. The want is not there. Unfortunately, I was annotating this, so I probably am going to have to put it in a little free library. I know some people have really loved this one, but it just wasn't working for me. I wasn't sold on the romance. I wasn't the biggest fan of how fandom culture was being presented. I might try something else by her in the future. I know Love at First Spite has been going around a lot lately, and that sounds pretty cute. Maybe it'll go better. That's for future Nat to decide. I also decided to give up on Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen. I think I initially picked it up because it sounded feminist and is based on Vietnamese history, which is not something I know a lot about. It's historical fiction, and that's just a genre I very rarely lean towards. I think currently it's actually the lowest rated book on my shelves right now. That makes me even more hesitant. Since buying it, I have felt no pull towards it ever. I think I can give up on it. I already showed you that gorgeous Evernight edition of Murder Road, so I can give up on the Book of the Month one. I didn't realize that the Evernight box was going to be Murder Road whenever I got this from Book of the Month. I don't need 2 copies of the same book. I also got rid of Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I hold this from a friend of a friend for like super cheap because I recognize the title, but since then I've only ever heard mid things about it, and it does look like it's a domestic thriller, which is less interesting to me. It's fine, whatever. Last book, oh my god, is Elizabeth by J. Randy Taraborelli. I grabbed this one from a friend of my parents who was clearing out her library. I thought, hey, Elizabeth Taylor lived a really wild life. This would be interesting to read, but it is huge. I also tend to enjoy reading my nonfiction books on audio if possible. I've never been able to find the audiobook for this out anywhere, so yeah, maybe somebody else will be more motivated to read it, but that's not me. Like I said, that's the stack of haul, and this is the stack of unhaul. Honestly, this is great. We love to see this. All right, and on that note, that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a mountain emoji in the comments. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!